Hi everybody. Last time we left off with a bit of a recap on how we got here. Now we get to the nitty-gritty. I'm gonna have to use some tricks here and there because everything I'm gonna show you today is wildly boring to see on YouTube, so I'm gonna try to be pretty aggressive with the editing. Also, I'm trying a different setup for the microphone. Hopefully the audio quality is a bit better. My girlfriend said that I sound half depressed, half sexy in the last video, which is how I feel, so I guess that's good. I start by cannibalizing another model I did. This is essentially 3D sketching and just moving shapes around and seeing what sticks. I already knew I wanted something pretty simple, because this being the first boss I've ever done, I don't want it to be too complicated on the 3D side. I want to be able to focus on the programming and figuring out the artificial intelligence. So while I model, the main thing I think about is shape. When I was around 16, I went to a masterclass by Marcelo Vignali, and he was doing his masterclasses about fractal design at that time. And he said something that really resonated with me, which is, if you're in a crowd and you spot your mom, how do you recognize her? And the truth is, us, especially artists, we are very fascinated by color, detail, and texture. But the reason why you recognize your mother in a crowd is shape. Shape is the main language that visual arts have, and arguably the most important one. It doesn't matter how good the colors or the details are, if the shape doesn't work, everything doesn't work. The way I do rigging is with a tool that I wrote in Python many years ago at this point. The tool isn't amazing, but it's just kind of a collection of the codes that I use constantly while rigging, and it allows me to do very simple rigs, but very, very fast. I'm pretty sure that any actual rigger would have an heart attack if they read through it. A lot of the control rig I can generate without much trouble. The only thing I need to add is IKs, which are not technically needed because I'm gonna handle IKs directly in Unreal. Regarding the animation, these are very simple animations. I took like just 20 or so minutes for the bite and 5 minutes each for the two loops. And the reason why I keep them this simple is because I still don't really know what I need, and I prefer to test some stuff in Engine before I actually start trying to make animation look decent. A lot of the animation looks very different in Engine compared to in your animation program. So it's a good practice to start going in Engine as early as you humanly can. A lot of what seems to work in your animation program actually doesn't. I also did an idle and a walk animations. To do those, I just kind of make two poses and then I just offset the animation curves, and that's a very dirty but quick way to get some idle animations. We are finally ready to put everything into Unreal. Start by doing the animation blueprint. That way I have some feedback when I'm doing code to know if everything is working. My basic setup is pretty simple. I have a locomotion state machine that I use for idle and walk. I have a default slot that I use for the one-off animations like attacks, and then I have a control rig that I use for the legs. Now we copy the IKs from a bug I've done in the past. IK means inverse kinematics, which makes it so instead of having to move every bone starting from the root and going downward, we can just tell to the program the target location we want the end bone to be at, and all the other rotations will be handled by the software. It's a very good way to handle legs, especially if you have that many of them, and it works very well for bugs. Next, I compare the rotation of our velocity to the direction our character is facing. I use this information to decide how much I want the body to bend while the character is walking. The blend space is gonna be an additive animation. That way it doesn't matter what animation is playing, the body will bend anyway. Then I throw in our bite animation and makes it so it plays when our bug gets close enough to our character. I just made it spawn an explosion taken from another bug. It's just for testing purposes. Eventually I'll just make it its own collider. And yeah, it's kinda working. This is mostly a proof of concept, but it's pretty good to have something to start with. Next time we're gonna look at all the code and the logic necessary to bring it from this to what we saw in the beginning. Thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.